Welcome in. Welcome to another episode of Cap&Trade. I'm your host, Texans Cap. Finally getting back into the swing of things. It's good to be here, good to see everyone. So if you got any questions, comments, throw them up on the board. We got a few things we'll get through tonight. We'll answer questions as we go through. As always, super chats go to the front of the line. So want to make sure that while you're here, to make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, do everything. Really helps the channel out, helps me out, makes this bigger and better for everybody. That way I can produce better content for you. So tonight, got a few things I wanted to chat about, specifically. What's going on here? There we go. So, let me get over here. Houston's Texans, they lose again. Kind of just wanted to touch base on that. Bobby Slowik update. Nico Collins situation, kind of what happened, what broke down there over the weekend. John Metchie had a career game, and any viewer questions, Q&A towards the end. Happy to answer anything y'all have. So, unfortunately, Houston lost two games in a row now, and that's just, it's unheard of for the DeMeco Ryans era. And this is what makes it tough is such the big lead at the beginning of the game, especially in the first half, 23 points in the first half. Then the interception in the third quarter in the end zone, which could have been 30-13. And knowing that this team, the Texans, short Will Anderson Jr., short Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs is out for the season, reshuffled offensive line, you're competing and you're beating arguably one of the best, if not top two, NFL teams in the season this year in Detroit Lions. And knowing that you're competing with them and you're beating them and just wreaking havoc all over the field for a first half of the football game is just, it brings some optimism to the table, but knowing what's coming for the second half, what fans have seen, what we've seen over and over and over in the second half, scoring 0 points over and over and over, it's just brutal. It's just brutal to watch, and it's amazing the tale of two halves with this team. The defense played their hearts out, played a fantastic game, was just all over Jared Goff. Ben Johnson finally made some adjustments toward the last, especially in the fourth quarter when he started doing a little more inside power, inside wham technique, created some stronger angles for his running backs to get out to the boundary and really just kind of wore the defense down. But CJ was under pressure quite a bit again, had the reshuffled offensive line, had Tunsil. Now we see Drew Scruggs at left guard, Jarrett Patterson at center, Shaq Mason at right guard, Titus Howard at right tackle. Is this the best offensive line? Maybe. I would kind of just want to see Kendrick Green at left guard at this point just to flesh out the entire experiment, just to see what happens. But I'm not entirely convinced that Drew Scruggs in his current form can be a successful guard. We saw a little bit of success last year, but, it wasn't that great in 2023. And I know it's one game in. It's a big change to go from center to guard. It's a lot to ask of a player. So maybe, 2-3 games down the line, he gets a little more comfortable. But he had a very tough assignment, quite possibly against one of the most underrated defensive tackles in the game, in Alan McNeil. Just fresh off of, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I think, signed a big contract with Detroit, big 4-year extension, and he proved it. He single-handedly wrote havoc all over the offense for the Houston Texans, both in the first half and the second half. First half, he lined up quite a bit over Drew Scruggs, a little bit over Mason. Second half, they moved him to the other side, put him over Mason quite a bit, and he just ate Mason's lunch all over the second half. Constantly in the backfield, constantly having pressure, constantly in Joe Mixon's face on run plays. The offense really just could not get going in the second half. And the defense, like I said, just played their heart out, played fantastic football. I was really concerned with how this defense would hold up against what we have seen has become one of the most efficient offenses in the league this year with Detroit. I was a little concerned of how they were going to cover Amon-Ra St. Brown out of the slot. They managed that very well. It was good to see Azeez Al-Shaair back. He played fantastic at the linebacker spot. Him and Toto were playing well. I did not like the safety rotation on the back end with Jimmy Ward and Eric Murray and Kalen Bullock. They were kind of just like rotating the three of them in. There was times where Eric Murray was the center safety in cover 3. There was times where Kalen Bullock was deep, and then they were trying to disguise pre and post snap with safety rotations. I really didn't like that, and I don't know if that's just a function of Jimmy Ward kind of getting back into the swing of things. Maybe they weren't ready for him to play 100% of the snaps, but that just didn't jive with me. And then you saw one of the big plays to Sam Laporta. It was almost a touchdown. It was like at the 1 yard line when he ran a deep crosser route from the inline tight end spot. He had Eric Murray in coverage, and that's not where Eric Murray needs to be. Eric Murray needs to be down closer to the box, and so I didn't really like that. But the rest of the plan for the defense was fantastic. Putting a lot of pressure on Goff. Took advantage of Dan Skipper at the left tackle. It was good to see that. Just a lot of things that they did really produce, and it was without Will Anderson. It was good to see, Danielle Hunter got a lot of pressure getting around Penei Sewell. There's one where he just put Sewell on a turntable and did his classic spin move that we've seen a number of times this year, get into the backfield. The other side, the right defensive end side was interesting. So we kind of saw a rotation of Derek Barnett, Jerry Hughes, Nico Autry started at the right defensive end. Even saw Dylan Horton get some playing time in there. And then because they're shorthanded at defensive tackle, after trading away Khalil Davis, only technically, if you're going to call Autry a defensive end, the team only had 3 defensive tackles active. Or no, 4, I'm sorry, because Tommy Togai was pulled up. And he actually surprised me for his size. He put together a few good snaps. But there was times where if Barnett or Jerry Hughes were out on the edge, then they would slide in Autry to the interior. There was a couple of snaps where we saw Autry and Danielle Hunter line up together on the same side in that kind of boss stack formation. So that was good to see. I was pleasantly surprised with the defensive line effort minus Will Anderson Jr. It's great to see the linebackers do well. Great to see the secondary. I think we definitely saw a shift in D'Amico, his mentality with the secondary, with the coverage after Lassiter went out with concussion after friendly fire. That was evident, especially in the last play before Detroit when they had the 3rd down and 6 or 3rd down and 8. They went soft zone coverage. I think that was a direct reflection of having Kadar Holman over there instead of Kamari Lassiter. That left an easy, just a basic option route for Amon-Ra St. Brown with Azeez and Al-Shaair in coverage. He had no chance there. So a lot of good things to take away from this loss. A lot of bad things to take away from this loss. Again, the second half offensive woes reappeared once again. And it's not so much about adjustments. I mean, there's some adjustments that an offensive coordinator can make, but there's not like whole scale changes that you can make from first half, second half. But I do think the way this offensive line is blocking, the way they're calling their blocking scheme, Chris Sims kind of nailed it today where he's talking about this is a slide protection unit. He says they're not a man blocking unit. Maybe they don't block that way by scheme wise, but there was times where there was in the third quarter, I believe it was second or third quarter. I think it was the second quarter when they were or third quarter when they were really driving, and then they had the interception in the end zone. The offensive line picked up 3 stunts picked up a full-scale 6-man blitz, and they were cohesive. They were operating well, and a lot of that was not the full-scale slide protection that he's talking about. They were manning up one-on-one with guys, and they were having good exchanges with managing the stunts. But there was one particular blitz, and I think I posted it on my X, that they brought 6. Detroit brought 6 with a linebacker, and Dario Ngabale stepped up, picked up the block. All of the 5 offensive linemen manned up on their guys, and nobody came through. It was a clean pocket for C.J. Stroud. I want to say that was the big play to Dalton Schultz, who ran kind of just a pseudo post over route up the seam and broke it over to the boundary of the side. So the offensive line showed that they could do it. Now the run blocking side, that was rough. Detroit had constant pressure in the backfield. They were not allowing the offensive line to get any forward depth. Nobody was getting to the secondary. Jack Campbell was, the linebacker for the Lions, was able to just stay back. He really didn't have any blockers in his face. He was able to sit there, read, diagnose, attack, and really shut down those running lanes. We saw some kind of indecisiveness from Joe Mixon, which is unusual for him. So just not quite sure what was going on there, but just a tough loss all around. It's considering how the team started out and how they finished. Laro was good. Can't wait for you to go in on slow. Yeah, we'll get to Slowik in a minute. It's not going to be as bad as y'all are hoping it to be. But, 6-4 now, and you've got a good slate of games coming up. Next, 3 games, I think Houston, if you're looking out in the really far ahead lines, future lines, are favored in 8 points or more in the next 3 games going into the bye week after that. So there's a lot to take from this game. The offensive line blocking was better, not great, but better. It's good to see some of the receivers have decent games. Now, there were 4 drops by the receivers. One by Dell, which was to the boundary around the 2-yard line on a late comeback or flat route, whatever you want to call it, going out to the boundary. Cade Stover missed a first down when they were at their own 2-yard line. Robert Woods dropped one when they were deep in on their own end of the field. Dropped one that would have been a first down. Hit him right in the arms. And Dalton Schultz had a drop as well. So it was really tough. The Robert Woods at the back of the end zone was not classified as a drop in the first quarter. That was probably a little bit uncatchable. But there was time. You just put together all those little critical mistakes, right? You didn't really have too many critical penalties. You had the holding after getting down to the 2-yard line, and then you had the holding on Scruggs, which pushed him back, and then turned into a field goal. That was probably a tough penalty against this offense, but for the most part, the penalties were fairly clean, but critical drops at different times of the game, taking a sack when it's 1st and 20 to become 2nd and 30, having a sack on 3rd down that takes you, at a rough field goal range than what you had left. All these just little critical mistakes is what allowed Detroit to stay in this game. Because to me, halfway through the 3rd quarter, this game should have been 30-13, if not 33-13, easily. And we're talking about a completely different game. BG, good to see you, bud. Yeah, so if you got any questions, comments, throw them up on the board. We'll get to everything we can. Let's see here. All right, so that's pretty much just some high level stuff that I wanted to talk about on the Houston game. Jump over here to Bobby Slowik update. So, D'Amico had to take some rough questions today. And he really stood his ground and held his loyalty to Bobby Slowik today. Really not surprised by that. He's a very loyal individual. But is this team going to make a change at the coordinator position at this point of the season? No, absolutely not. They would have to lose multiple more games in a row. And at that point, you're close to the end of the season. Then you could just make a change to make a change. But there is no – I don't see any positive outcome by getting rid of Bobby Slowik. And then D'Amico, that's his friend. I mean, they've been friends. They came up as quality control guys in San Francisco together. They came up through that system together. I know they're friends or friendly. I mean, but that would just toast out Slowik's career path, and he would just have to reset and go back to be like a run game coordinator or something, and that's just not what you want to see. And so I don't foresee any changes at the offensive coordinator position that makes any sense. I don't see anybody on this staff that can step up to take over play call. I mean, Gerard Johnson, maybe, but he's never played calls before. Bill Lazor, no, he's a offensive consultant. Okay, let's be real. He is not who you want calling plays at this point. And there's really nobody. I mean, there's really nobody else on this staff that you would even want to consider to giving play calling duties to. And it's really not fair to someone like to Gerard Johnson unless you're planning to promote him up. But what if he just wets the bed for the last 7 games of the season? Then you can't promote him up because he was not good. And now you're just having to revamp the whole offensive staff. Wait for that part to come through in the offseason. But stick with Bobby Slowik. I think that's what Houston's going to do. It doesn't make any sense to me for them to make any kind of change like that. Now, does Slowik need to make changes on how he calls the game? Absolutely. I threw up a ton of stats over the last 2 days on my X account. This team leads the league in running the ball on passing downs on second and third and long, meaning 7 yards or longer. This team is way, way above any other team in the league at running the ball from that type of situation. To me, that tells me that he has little to no confidence in this offensive line. He's trying to run the ball from second and long, third and long, especially second and long. He's trying to run the ball from there to try to get into a third and manageable to where he can get back to a quick step type of program for third down, maybe for Stroud. That's what it tells me. Is it's a lack of confidence in this offensive line to be able to manage a pocket for second and long where you need more long developing routes to get near the sticks to make it third and manageable or to get the first down. So that's just my take on the situation there on that specific stat. But just a lot of 22 personnel. I know they're short of fullback, and this team really depends on a fullback. And I think we saw them use Stover as a fullback, I think 1 or 2 snaps this whole game. They're running that kind of split formation where they have Stover and Schultz or maybe Catoriano as off the line tight ends, flanking both sides of the offensive line, and then they use either one of them as a slice, almost like where you want to call them a pull across the formation. They're slicing whether it's in motion as an escort motion or right off the snap of the ball, they're slicing across the formation to get either a backside defensive end or if it's a strong side pull run, then he's attacking the play side defensive end. You're not getting a whole lot of play action work out of that type of formation currently because one of those players is having to stay in to block on passing down. So what needs to be done? I'm not an offensive coordinator, so it's really hard to say. But something needs to change in the play calling. And I really do think this condensed formations that we continually see over and over and over, it's inviting a lot of players into the box, right? When you've got, like I was talking about, the split tight end formation, and then you bring in a receiver that's tight to the formation, all of a sudden you've got 8 players in the box on the other side of the ball. with one deep safety, one, boundary cornerback, maybe a floater safety star type player out there, or a dollar sign type player. But I mean, you're inviting such a compact box. And right now, without Diggs and without Collins, these wide receivers cannot create separation from a condensed formation box. Dell is too small to break through traffic out of a condensed formation. Xavier Hutchinson is just not strong enough, just not there yet enough to get through a condensed formation to get into separation and create separation. John Metchie, same thing. He's just not that player. He is a route runner and diagnoser of what's in front of him. If you're going to continue to run with these wide receivers, which we know Nico Collins is coming back this year, and we'll get to that in a minute, you need to get a wider formation. Just my opinion. I could be completely wrong. This is just me from what I see. Get the wide receivers a little more width, and that will spread out some of the linebackers, because when we see it, and then you can use Mixon to either flank out from the backfield and be a second slot receiver, get a linebacker in coverage over him, or it frees up one of your other slot receivers, depending on how the slide defensive backs work. So, to me, that just I don't like the condensed formations. I just don't. It compacts everything, and it gets too messy. It gets too muddled in there. You got too many players in the box. Stroud obviously doesn't have the ability to audible out of plays when he sees a stacked box. I've seen him kill plays, but I just don't see where he has the ability to completely change up the play call based on what he's seeing in front of him. And there's multiple times where you see a condensed box, you see 8-man boxes, and they're just running right into it and getting nothing. When he could change out, audible out of that, spread the formation out, get a complete, just something, right? So, is there a change coming? I doubt it. I just don't foresee anything that adds benefit or adds value over what Bobby Slowik already brings. Thank you, BG. Yeah, hit that like button, y'all, man. That's what I'm talking about. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Really helps out the channel. All right. Nico Collins situation. That was a wild one, right? So, go back in time. We saw Friday designated to return. Not activated, just designated to return. Open the practice window. Majority of people ran with the notion that Nico Collins was going to play. And I get it. It was easy to make that assumption. There was plenty of tea leaves out there that would have told you otherwise. And I tried to point them out to you. The biggest one was the Ian Rappaport tweet when he said, first, he's been he's been designated to return, and he's going to play. And then 30 seconds later, revised tweet that had nothing to do in it with him playing. I can guarantee you that was Texans PR getting a message over to Rappaport, hey, we need to change that tweet. And then Saturday comes around, everybody's waiting for the news. The team drags it out till 3 o'clock, activate him to the roster. All right, cool. He's active now. He's going to play. That's what everybody's running with. That's what everybody's seeing. Sunday comes around. The inactives come out. Nico Collins is inactive. Everybody wants to know why. So what I want you to take away from this situation is know that Nico was never going to play. This was all just gamesmanship by Houston. They were trying to just play a little game with Detroit, making Detroit think that they had to kind of game plan for Nico Collins and plan for him to be on the field, Houston knowing that they were not going to play him. And what you need to know about D'Amico Ryans, and this is the feedback that I got from a few folks that I trust, is D'Amico is very big on practicing and being there for a full set of practices, meaning being there for the walkthrough, the initial walkthrough on Wednesday, being there for the full practice on Thursday, being there for the final walkthrough on Friday. Being available all those days is critical and very important to D'Amico Ryans. Whether you agree with it or not, I understand. But that's just how that's how D'Amico Ryans runs this program. So when you factor all that in, and then you start seeing how messages are relayed on social media, that is why you saw Nico Collins inactive on Sunday. It's just the way it is. So, but he will play for sure this coming week. I can tell you that much. We'll definitely see him in the game against Dallas on Monday. So, pretty crazy situation. I hate it for the fans. I hate it for a lot of the folks that cover the team, especially like my buddy Cody Stutes. I hated seeing him kind of get pulled into that little trap, and there was nothing to do with it, and he had to kind of walk it back just like a lot of people did, and it's unfortunate. So, is what it is. So that's what happened with that. But we'll see Nico Collins back this week. Then, on the flip side, John Metchie. A lot of y'all know, a lot of you follow me on X and follow me around here. It was good to see John Metchie have a day. We've been waiting for it for 2.5 years. I'm sure he's been waiting for it for 2.5 years. Got his first career regular season touchdown. Career high on receiving yards and receptions. I think it was 5 for 74 yards. It was really good to see him. D'Amico had a lot of good things to say about him. This was the biggest route share for Metchie by far. The last 2 weeks, he's like, I think I looked at it today, it was like 62 and 69% route share for the last 2 weeks. Now, those numbers will come down when Nico Collins returns this week, because Metchie will be the one who comes off the field whenever the team runs with 2 tight ends, which we know they do quite a bit. So more often than not, it'll be Tank Dell and Nico Collins as your 2 primary receivers, and then Metchie will come on in the 11 personnel groupings. But just overall, I was just so excited to see it for the guy, man. He's just worked his tail off to get back. It's taken some time for the game to slow down for him. This was his first full off season, and even in preseason and the first first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, it just wasn't quite snapping for him the way it needed to. And now that he's gotten full set of snaps, full set of games, I think he's finally starting to see it the way the team wants him to see it. And so to me, that provides a very strong outlook, not only for the rest of the year, because he'll be the primary third wide receiver, because we know Xavier Hutchinson plays the X, which is what Nico Collins does. So I think Xavier's snaps are going to drop off immediately. Robert Woods will probably kind of flank inside and out with Metchie, just to kind of depending on the matchup and who's got the hot hand. But I do think we'll still see Metchie coming in on 11 personnel. Hopefully we continue to see the success we see from him. But I just wanted to kind of name drop him because I was really excited to kind of see him play well. You see more aggression with his route running. You see more aggression with his high point in the ball, like we saw in the touchdown. He had defenders hand in his face, and he was able to high point it. 2 hands, land, cover, everything, make the wide receiver move, make it look simple. But you see it in his route running. If you go look at the tape, he's not doing the long round-offs on his comebacks, on his flat routes. But I'll take it for example for the touchdown that he had. So he was on the left side of the formation with Hutchinson. Hutchinson kind of ran. It was almost like the classic route that we saw against Tampa Bay last year, where they ran the double post against the quarter coverage to win the game when they ran it to Tank Dell. So this time we saw Hutch run up the seam and then kind of post back to the back side of the end zone to kind of try to pull the safety, because it was a single high safety. Pull the safety off. Metchie got a lot of width when he went out to the left, he went outside of the hash marks and went out very wide to try to roll his cornerback with him, and then he turned it back to the middle of the end zone, which is when Stroud hit him, and it was a well-placed ball, got where Metchie was in one of the only ones that could get to it, but it was just a very good route, and that's the kind of things, that's the kind of details that you want to see from your players, and that's what we see from Metchie on that specific route. Go back and watch the tape, man. It's really cool. He, instead of just running up the seam and then breaking like a, not like a bang 8, but like a glance route, but more like 10, 12 yards long, he gets some width to really roll out get his cornerback to stay on the outside of the boundary, wait for Hutchinson's post move to pull the safety out, and then he can roll back to the middle of the end zone. So it's really cool to see. I'm excited to see what he can do continuing forward. So if you got any questions, comments, throw them up, man. We'll go to them. Arthur, good to see you, buddy. Chris Sims' comments were interesting about being a Shanahan system that hasn't fully opened up yet. I don't know that it hasn't been fully opened up yet. I think let me think about this for a second. It has fully opened. Now maybe it's not fully open to the fact that you're very limited on like screenplays. This team is horrible with screenplays, right? But that's also a function of having Nico Collins not on the field because he excels in those screenplays. He's, 215 pounds. He is much bigger than any other wide receiver on this roster, and he can power through and get the yards after catch on the screenplays, whereas you're not able to do that with Tank Dell, with John Metchie, with Robert Woods. Those guys are just not built for that. So maybe the playbook in that sense were things that you could do with Nico Collins you can't do because he's not on the field. Now, they've tried to do some of those things, but the routes are just not as crisp. Now, there was plenty of times where I saw Xavier Hutchinson was open. Now, CJ was kind of fleshed out. Maybe he's starting to feel a little bit of ghost a little bit in the pocket. I've seen him kind of bail on a few pockets that maybe 2023 CJ Stroud would have hung into. But some of the routes that you see from Hutch are just not as crisp, just not as strong as you would see from Nico Collins. So I'm kind of curious to see how the playbook facilitates itself with the return of Nico Collins and how that plays out going forward with him back on the field. But I don't know that it's really so much as the playbook just hasn't opened up. I think it's more so you're just limited on what you can do with the personnel that's on the field. BG says, man, British Books have been a good addition to the offense. For that. It'd have been nice to have a fullback. Now, he is still learning the fullback position. There was the times that he was on the field before he had his injury, which apparently is season ending, so he's not coming back. There was a lot of missed assignments for British Books. Now, he was a running back, and you're asking him to transition to a fullback, which is a big ask. The team does have Troy Hairston on the practice squad, so I'm kind of surprised they're not utilizing him on elevations a little bit more. Kind of maybe just dependent on matchup, but Detroit, man, their run defense was just fantastic, and having no fullback, depending on Stover and Schultz to slice across the formation to cover your pullers and your backside defensive ends. I mean, it was bad, and it would be nice to see a fullback on the field. So maybe we might see Troy Hairston in the near future. I don't know, but it's just not good. So lack of fullback does present an issue with this offensive line with their run blocking. Instead of having, like I talk about, because you're having to run a lot of 22 personnel, which limits your route options on play action. This team, hopefully, maybe they'll take advantage of the fullback. Sammy says, with the injuries at wide receiver and with how much chemistry I had in 20, I'm a little disappointed how Dalton Schultz has become an afterthought. Any thoughts on that? Why that is? Sammy, that's a good question. And I don't know the exact answer to that. I mean, there's times where he blasts off the line and he is there and he creates separation, like we saw in his big gain in the one play that we saw. He had another drop, but I'm with you. He seems to be not as involved, not the guy to go to that we saw in 2023. Now, what's that's a function of? I don't know. Maybe I need to go back and look at his routes and see if maybe his route numbers have dropped this year because they're not running a fullback, because they're having pass protection issues. Maybe they're keeping in Schultz more for blocking. Maybe they got him chipping on the way out, which limits his routes. I don't know. I need to go back and maybe look at his route numbers from 2023 to 2024 and see if there's a decline, because we saw last year his route numbers dropped significantly when Laramie Tunsil was out for 2 or 3 weeks at the beginning of the season because they had to keep him in for blocking. So maybe it's something. Maybe that'd be a homework assignment for me to do this week to kind of take a look at that. But it's definitely concerning, especially after the money that the team paid on the new contract. You're expecting much bigger production out of him, and his blocking is still not very good. And you see it in his body language. After he misses a block, after he gets thrown, misses his assignment, he turns around, he drops his shoulders. You can tell he's pissed. And I don't know if it's just a function of he just can't do it, but I know that he can, and we know that he can be a successful tight end. We've seen him do it. We just need to figure out how to get him back involved. But I definitely need to go back and look and see what the numbers look like. Tim Settle continues to impress me. Who are you thinking is getting the biggest performance bonus at the end of the year so far? Performance bonuses kind of it depends on play time and pay. So if you're lower pay and you have a lot of play time, like Henry To'oTo'o is probably going to have a pretty good performance bonus come next year because he's fifth round rookie contract. He's going to have, when you have low pay with high play time, those players get the biggest bonuses. Now, Tim Settle, being a defensive tackle, he comes off the field a little bit more. His play time is not going to be as good. Now, he does have some play time incentives in his contract. I have to go back and look at the details on that. But I don't foresee him being too high up on the list on the performance pay that we'll get a hold of in probably January or February. But I think look at the rookies with a lot of snaps. Kamari Lassiter, Kalen Bullock is another one. Henry To'oTo'o. There's no maybe Juice Scruggs since he's on a rookie contract. That's kind of how that performance thing plays out. Hopefully Nico can change things. And don't we all wish it? That would be fantastic. By all accounts, Nico is 100% healthy, ready to go. Going against Dallas, I think there's a good chance for him to have a very good breakout game and just return back to the form that we're used to seeing. 8, 9 targets, 7, 8 receptions for $125, $130. Wouldn't shock me at all to see Nico Collins have that kind of day again. This is probably a perfect time for this team to reset and reevaluate. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, you got Dallas, which they're favored by 8.5. See, now I'm having a blank on the schedule. Let me go look at it real quick. Unless somebody can remind me. Okay, that's right. So we got Dallas, which I know they're 8.5-point favorites. Then you got Tennessee, and somebody posted the Outlook, playing Tennessee at home at noon. That's going to be 7 or 8 point outlook. I think that's a 8-point favorite. And then Jacksonville, playing at Jacksonville the following Sunday before the bye week. Especially if Trevor Lawrence is hurt and ends up out for the season, which that's kind of up in the air right now. That's going to be if Trevor Lawrence is out, then that's going to be that should be another one. There should be no reason why this team doesn't just win the next 3 games, but win convincingly for the next 3 games. And that is exactly what this team needs to reestablish their confidence, play well for these next 3 games, play fundamental football on all 3 phases, get back to the basics, get back to execution. And these are the 3 opponents that you can do it. Now, Dallas has got a good pass rush. Don't get us wrong. Micah Parsons is going to have a field day, but you can attack that defense with their secondary. You can definitely shut down this offense, whether it sounds like Cooper Rush is going to be your quarterback for Dallas. So this defense should be able to have a heyday there as well. Tennessee, which we know is just completely broken, and then Jacksonville. So these 3 games are critical for Houston. I don't like looking forward like that, but for the sake of where this team is, they dang well better be 9-4 heading into the bye. And then they got the gauntlet with Miami, KC, Baltimore, and then another game with Jacksonville. They have got to be playing well, take those 3 games, build the confidence, get it back going in the right direction, and build on that. Go into the bye week, get your players rested, continue that evaluation, and then bring it home in the home stretch. BG's going north. I like it. Battle Red up in Dallas, man. That's going to be great. Hopefully we got a lot of traveling Texans going up there. Should be a good game, regardless. Hopefully it's a blowout. There's no reason why Dallas should be even in this game with Houston. So that's really about all I had to cover tonight. Still kind of getting back into the swing of things. I messed up the initial link for YouTube. I created it and I did the wrong thing and had to do it on a whim right before here. So lesson learned. I haven't done these things in forever. So hopefully I'm trying to get back into the swing of things. I really want to get back to doing video, want to get back to doing live video. I really do enjoy doing these and conversing with y'all, interacting with y'all. Everybody brings great points, and I enjoy all the questions and the commentary. So make sure, well, before I close it out, let's see here. Doc, you late. Does every team have to be under the cap during the season? Yes. Everybody has to remain under the cap. Whoop. So if a team is getting very, very up against the salary cap, let's just say a team has $300,000 left in salary cap available. They send in a contract that's going to be $500,000 against the cap. The management council is not going to accept that contract. They're going to kick it back to the team, say you cannot have this contract because it puts you over the cap. So there's no way a team can go over the cap unless somebody makes a mistake like we saw Houston and the management council did with Kaimi Fairbairn's contract last year or back in March and before the new league year started. But for all intents and purposes, you can't go over the cap because the league will not let you process a contract that will put you over the cap. It just won't happen. So it's not so much as a team can just send it in and then go over the contract, go over the cap, be out of compliance, and then pay the, whatever the consequences is. No, they're not going to allow the contract. So that's how that would work. Houston takeover, yeah. BG, take everybody with you, man. Need all the Battle Red up there. Need to show how Houston travels. Man, I tell you what, Detroit travels well. My gosh, it was a sea of blue at NRG on Sunday. I mean, a sea of blue. In the lower bowl, there's a lot of blue. I was quite impressed. Now, being 8-1 or whatever their record is and being one of the best teams in the league, yeah, I would hope that they're going to travel well. So, you're welcome, Larry. I would hope a team travels well, but definitely need Houston to kind of take over Dallas for sure. So, I think that's about it. That's about all I had. If there's any other questions, throw them up before we. Sammy has one more question. Yeah, we got time. Is Texans Pop still around now that are good again when he's if you know days for him? We're worried, Cap. I'll have to message Lindsay over PR and see what the deal is. We saw Texans Pup at training camp. The new pup, the little black lab. He was a gorgeous puppy. Just got to see him at camp, and but I haven't seen him around much lately. So we'll have to ask the question. That would be my other homework assignment for you, Sammy, and I'll report back next week on the next show. So, like I was talking about, we'll definitely try to get back into the swing of these, trying to get back going, definitely between live video and just some recorded video. I've got a couple of thoughts on some video I can do for the next couple of weeks. Still, we'll do some writing over at Cap&Trade.football, but I really do want to get more video work out there. Definitely want to do more of these live sessions. We did the live Q&A last Friday night. That was kind of a last minute on a whim. We'll do those as well, especially when we get to the off season. The Q&A sessions will definitely be more prevalent because I know free agency and how all that shakes out. Definitely a lot of folks have a lot of questions. So, and that's where I live and breathe, man, is the off season. So I think that will do it. We're at 49 minutes coming up because we got a late start because I'm a dummy head. So, all right. So we'll call it a night. Before we close it out, make sure you make sure you post any comments, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It helps out. Sam. You got to go back and watch the rewatch, bud. Sorry. If you had any questions that I missed, Sam, just send me a DM. I know there was one question that I had from Kevin earlier. Now I can't remember what it was. I have to go back and look. He's going to be mad at me for not answering it because I did tell him that I would. Oh, wait. Nope, that's not it. Sorry, Kevin. I'll have to go back and find your question. Oh, wait. Won't be able to watch Bill catch up. What do you think is the most realistic option to get the offensive going? So we kind of touched base on that. Talked about the formations and maybe we can kind of see him get back to more 11 personnel with Nico Collins on the field. But this team's running a lot of 22 personnel with the condensed formations. So, Kevin, to answer your question, what to get the offense going, I really would like to see more guard pulling instead of the slices from the tight ends. We'd like to see Mason and especially Scruggs now at guard. I think he can be utilized more in pulling situations, whether it's split zone work with a pull and a slice tight end. But I really want to get away from the condensed formations. I really do. I want to see, and I may be completely wrong, but I want to see this team kind of get a little more width in the formations, get the receivers away from the formation, and try to get away from these 8-man boxes that the team is running into constantly with this condensed formation look. That's just my thought. Well, I could be completely wrong, but that's just how I would address it. Arthur, super chat, buddy. I appreciate it. Last year, probably missing this week. Yeah, it's tough, man. Concussions, it's rare to see a player make it back for the following game from a concussion, especially on a Sunday night game. Now, they do have the extra day with Monday, but we'll find out on Thursday, or maybe they're practicing tomorrow. I have to go back and look at the schedule. But we'll find out Wednesday, Thursday on his status. But I would be shocked because I heard from what it sounded like, he took his head was ringing pretty good. It was big hit that Jimmy Ward kind of when he collided with Lassiter for sure. But I would be shocked if Lassiter is available this week. Now, I think Jeff Okudah probably gets activated this week, and maybe he's your cornerback too. Either they take Holman off of the squad, or they used Okudah and take somebody else's roster spot, whether that's Steven Sims or somebody else that I'm just not thinking of. But yeah, I would be shocked if Lassiter's about. But I appreciate the super chat, man. Really do appreciate the support. Oh, hell yeah, I should have seen good. Damn it, Ward. Yeah, that was just nothing you could do about that. I mean, Lassiter was trying to. It was a screenplay, and Panay Sewell, all 320 pounds of him, was heading right for Kamari Lassiter, and so Lassiter tried to spin off of him to get away from him, and that's where he spun off right in Jimmy Ward's path. So it's just unfortunate accident. Hate to see it, but hopefully we'll see Lassiter back for the Tennessee game. I'd be shocked if he makes it this week. All right, well, we will call it a night. I think that's about it. Again, like, comment, subscribe. We'll keep of it. We'll let you know when the next live show is. Maybe we'll get one this weekend. If not, we'll be back next Tuesday for sure, hopefully, unless something comes up. Life happens. That's what happens the last three months. But, yeah, we'll be back. We'll continue doing these, and we'll just keep getting bigger and better. So, go Texans. Appreciate the support. With that, we will call it a night. Everybody have a good one. Peace.